all gags. Hey, internets! It's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and we're back! It's the Dawnbringers, baby! We're back. It is so good to be back at the virtual table with all of you lovely people. That's you in the game and you in the chat. We are so excited to be here tonight for Season 6 of the Dawnbringers, The Wild Beyond the WitchLight. Tonight is Episode 1, Tickets Please. And we will be getting to the game in just a few moments. Of course, we've got a few announcements. It's been a little while, and we do actually have a pretty cool, pretty big announcement right off the bat with this new season. If you look up above my head, we are sponsored by Session Zero Clothing. We are super excited to be able to do this season sponsored by Session Zero Clothing. And Jeremy tried to guess at the code. I hadn't announced it yet. Session Zero Clothing, of course, is they offer a selection of nerdy t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, sweatshirts, jackets, hats, and other accessories for your next Session Zero. You can follow that affiliate link that I just dropped in the chat. It'll pop up from time to time. And use code MTD0 and you will get 10% off of your order and help support the channel while you do so. Make sure you use that affiliate link too. Head over there, check out their amazing shirts and hats. And if a size you want isn't in stock, just bookmark it and save it, because I know they're working on getting all new stock in soon as well. So we are very excited to have Session Zero be with us this season. Of course, we also, the first link that Jeremy actually tried with the sponsor is, of course, our channel sponsor, Talon and Claw, makers of quality wooden gaming accessories like DM screens, dice vaults. If you follow them on Twitter, you know that they got heat back in the shop, which means they got their laser fixed. So Anthony's laser engraving all the wood things. Lots of cool stuff going on over there. Over there, you can use code MTDClaw and get 10% off of your order. So head on over there and check that out as well. We do also have a partnership with Run Right Play. Our good friend Keel Adam over there runs an amazing community of collaboration and creativity. Check out the Patreon over there at Run Right Play and see what kind of awesome stuff is going on there. Before we get into some more of the stuff like domain dice and all that, I'm actually going to throw it over to Ted, who's got a special announcement.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching and all of that jazz. Nerdarchy right now is having our second Kickstarter. If you want to come check it out, it actually has an item from this very game within it. Both Jake and Jeremy have seen the artwork for it, and I think they're pretty thrilled with it. So go check it out. It's the Mage Forge over on Kickstarter. It's 250 tarot-sized magic item cards, all things from our own games, the Nerdarchy verse, and what have you. As I said, even from Gerrit de Brailne from this very game itself. So go check it out.
Awesome. Super excited about that. Absolutely honored and excited to have something that we created collaboratively in this game feature in that. That will surely be a prized possession. All right. Well, one of the things I want to talk about this game in particular is, of course, we have a thing called domain dice that originated right here on the Dawnbringers. Domain dice are a way that you, the viewer, can help to influence the game. They give the players things like they allow them to reroll. They allow them to make me re-roll. They can get extra hit dice outside of healing. They can turn failed death saves into successful ones, or the Dawnbringers' favorite is the 5 domain dice, the Patron's Blessing, to turn a hit into a super crit, which is double max damage. And thanks to all of you amazing people who have done things like with these just subscriptions, resubs, gift subs, the tipping $5 through here, through Ko-Fi, the sharing 500 bits, all of that stuff earns domain dice. And this year we have brand new Feywild themed domain dice. You actually carry over from last season. Let me summon in the new domain dice from last season. 144, but we've already just started this stream, and it looks like there's one of them disappeared. Looks like
Do I need a net?
there you go. We've got 33. No, that's not right.
I'm okay with it.
It's been 2 months, y'all. We got 3 more. Sorry, I was saying 3 and then looking at Tamiko's message along with her subbing for 3 years in a row, which we immensely appreciate. That is going to put you at 147 domain dice. Try not to spend them all in one place. We're just going to fix this up. Whoops, I took one away.
No promises.
So what happens if we do spend them all in one place?
Boom.
Feywild magic surges for everyone. So, there we go. We've got the domain dice straightened out for right now. Looks like there's another one. So we will keep those coming. I'll keep an eye on those. Now, I do want to let you all know before we get started, this is our important message before every game here on Mini Terrain Domain is we want to take a moment and before we take you into a fantasy world of escapism and just remind you that you matter. You make a difference. Your presence on this earth makes a difference, whether or not you believe that. But it can be hard sometimes and you might be struggling. And we recognize that. And it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to struggle. But you don't have to do so alone. There are plenty of services out there that can provide you with the help you need. One of the ways that we try to make that available for you is, as Jeremy just did in the chat, at any time you can type !help. And the URL for findahelpline.com will show up. Click that link, bookmark it, save it for yourself, save it for a friend. It is a simple tool that you simply put where you are located in the world, and multiple help services, phone numbers, text numbers, web addresses, all that stuff will pop up. Please, please don't suffer alone. Don't struggle alone. Reach out through one of those help services that are available. With that, I think it's time to play some Dungeons and Dragons. All right. And I will say, since this is a new season, all of our previous 5 seasons are available on youtube.com/mini terrain domain if you want to know what's happened to date. Suffice it to say that after defeating the Frost Maiden Auriel, a one-time friend turned enemy in the form of Vi, the druid, and bringing the dawn to Icewind Dale, to the frozen north, and defeating not once but twice the ancient dragon and then the Dracolich Arviatris. The Dawnbringers decided to stay in Icewind Dale. They rescued the crew of the Evangeline that they could, which turned out to only be Madame Thala. But they did find out that the Evangeline, the spirit of their ship that had been torn in two by Arviatris was a fey entity, and that she used her magic to rescue 8 of the surviving crew members and send them into the Feywild, and that she herself, her spirit, is trapped within the Feywild, and she beseeched the Dawnbringers to come and rescue them, saying that she would use her influence in the Feywild to ensure that a Feygate would appear somewhere near wherever they are in the world. So they have stayed in Lonelywood, where they've been making a bit of a home. And we are going to get started here in just a moment, because I don't want to forget to set this up. I did not miss it. I was just talking. Thank you, patron saint of the domain dice, Joey P., who just pushed your total up to 167 domain dice. The patron saint, you are amazing, and we appreciate you so much. All right, I've got your numbers. Also, actually, it's 168 domain dice. All right, let us begin. The cloudless azure sky of a new day stretches from horizon to horizon. A lone monarch butterfly flutters soundlessly into view, dancing lazy spirals as it flits downward toward the quiet town of Lonelywood. The many docks along the shore of the Mare de Walden are a flurry of activity as fishing boats of all sizes bring in their hauls from the early morning's expeditions, and then turn around and head back out for an afternoon and evening of fishing. Fishmongers and dock workers quickly clean and pack the fish into snow-filled carts for transport to the citizens of 10 towns. Every so often, the cracking of wood, preceded by a shouted "Timber!" rises up from the trees as lumberjacks fell carefully selected lumber. The butterfly's course takes it through the rising smoke of several chimneys over the town, their white smoke lingering. I lost my place. The white smoke lingering wraith-like in the chill air. It is from one of these nearby chimneys that we suddenly hear a muffled explosion, followed by a plume of thick black smoke. The butterfly descends along the column of smoke and flutters past the window of townspeaker Nimsy Huddle's kitchen. The shutters are suddenly thrown wide, and we see a soot-covered Talmud, coughing and waving smoke out through the open window. He wears a pink apron that says, "Home is where the hearth is." And behind him, we hear the voice of Nimsy Huddle. "I told you, Talmud. A pinch of black powder in the fire biscuits, not a pouch of black powder."
I can't help it. My fingers are fat, Nimsy. Look at my hands. That was a pinch.
If I have to, I'm going to get my children's measuring spoons. It's the only way you're going to accurately get these. You want the bite of the powder, not to burst their faces off when they take a bite.
Well, I'll try harder. Apologies.
All right. Back to square one. And we see within this kitchen that there are an array of baked goods. Pretty clearly delineated across this table. We see Nimsy Huddle's infamous halfling cookies, expertly iced. We see wonderful, plump, airy tarts with just a hint of that strawberry and raspberry from inside. She slaps your hand. When you learn to make them properly, then you can eat them. Next to these beautiful pastries, are some lumpy, misshapen halfling cookies, very blackened tarts with a sad sort of what was probably once strawberry and raspberry filling. And these are clearly Talmud's efforts, learning how to bake with Nimsy Huddle. Elsewhere in the town, we see Drown patrolling through the streets, making your rounds as you do in the mornings, the afternoons, and the evenings. Just checking to see if anybody needs help. You get friendly waves, nods of acknowledgement from the dock workers and the fishmongers. The various folk around town are quite accustomed to seeing you these days. At one point, as you're walking by the docks, you can see that one of these snow-packed wagons full of fish to be delivered the wheel is stuck, mired in the mud, and the fishmonger just looks over at you helplessly. "A hand, please."
Sure. Drown will just sort of tromp over in that direction. And hang on, sorry. Sorry, he'll tromp over toward the wagon and just sort of look it over and just without really a word, reach down and just grip underneath the wheel and just try to wrench it out of the snow and the rut that it's stuck in.
As soon as you lift up on it, they give the horse a quick little pull, and the wagon immediately pulls free. And he, already in motion, the fishmonger climbs up into the wagon and just gives a wave of thanks back at you as he's pulling away. And you continue on your rounds around town. You would also, about this point, you would see the thick black smoke pouring, dissipating a bit, but having heard the muffled explosion, you would see the townspeaker's kitchen window open and Talmud's soot-blackened face with his eyes just bloop, bloop in the window.
Is this a standard occurrence, or is the explosion and smoke new?
I would say this is new. This is the first time he's tried making the fire biscuits.
So then Drown will head that way. Once it gets into the afternoon and the evening, he's less worried about the surrounding, environs of the town. So he'll head over there and just make sure everything's all right.
As you're heading up the steps to Nimsy Huddle's place, the door suddenly bursts open and 4 streaks, roughly halfling child-sized, come boom, 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 as Poppy, Scoop, Trout, and Fiddle, Nimsy Huddle's children, go flying past you. One of them just sort of boom, bumps into you and immediately drops back onto their rear end and just kind of looks up at you. Trout. "Sorry, Mr. Drown."
It is all right. Are you hurt?
No. And quickly you notice that Trout, when they fell, he dropped a handful of halfling cookies he'd swiped from the kitchen table, quickly tucks them into their shirt and shouts after the others, "Wait for me! Wait for me!" And you hear one of them say, "Come on! Off to Cantriel's we go!" as they're heading off around the corner. And you're able to head into the kitchen where Nimsy is once again, now this is a regular occurrence. Nimsy is very much sounding like a school matron, almost scolding Talmud in the ways of following the recipe. And there's a reason when a measurement is given, Talmud, that you follow that measurement. When you learn how to make the recipe, then you can adjust it and make it your own. These are called Nimzi Huddle's fire biscuits, not Talmud's explosive fire biscuits.
How did you blow up a biscuit?
It's hard to explain. But, Dawn, I'm so glad that you're here. Look, they may not look like much, but please try one. And he just rushes up and thrusts one of the cookies into Drown's mouth.
So, Talmud, I would like you to roll me we're going to call this an intelligence check.
You would. Dan, I apologize in advance.
That's fine. What can I do? Kill me?
Maybe.
So that's a grand total of 3.
Nice.
Drown, how do you react when this awful tasting cookie is put in your mouth? Whatever a cookie's supposed to taste like, this is 180 degrees opposite of that. Whatever that is.
Drown will start to chew. Stop. Is it edible? And by that I mean, does it have anything in it that's like a rock or that sort of consistency that he just can't physically manage?
It's nothing like that.
All right. So he pauses for a moment, blinks, keeps chewing, and just sort of shakes his head. You will have to try again.
Well, I guess everybody's a critic.
Talmud, as you turn around, Nimsy hands you Drown a small cup of tea. You're gonna want that, dear. And
yes,
here, and hands you 2 of her own halfling cookies.
He will drink the tea and actually swish it a little bit before swallowing, and then and then enjoy the actual cookies. Do not give those to the children.
Oh, trust me, the children have learned to stay far away from Talmud's baking.
Good.
We'll know he succeeded when they start stealing his cookies.
That is a good indicator.
As we pull away from the view of Nimsy Huddle's kitchen, we sort of fly past, momentarily seeing this butterfly flitting about town, and we see the 4 children as they run around the corner, and there's just behind Nimsy Huddle's home, there's a path that leads back into the small bit of the lonely wood that actually presses into the town. And we sort of move past them along the trail, where we see, though it's still right within the town proper, being in this small wooded area, this little cabin has this feeling of being isolated away from everybody else. And out in I imagine, well, you tell us, Cantriel, where are you in this cottage that you have taken up as your own personal residence? What are you doing as you hear the children approaching?
I'm actually out in the back area behind the cabin, and I've pulled various vines down from different trees and structures, and I'm weaving a shallow basket using the vines, and it's some intricate knot work and then just some simple back and forth patterns and then back to the intricate knot work. And she kind of has her head tilted, and you just see a small smile start creeping across her face before the children are even near the cabin. And she just sort of stays there and cocks her eyebrow expectantly, waiting for the children to appear.
As you do so, mounted on the back of the cabin wall, either just sitting there or maybe you've mounted it, you catch sight of your reflection in a cracked hand mirror. While you were in the Lonely Wood over these past several weeks, as you would often head out into the woods proper to practice your archery safely and whatever else you needed to do out there, tell us how you defeated the Lonely Wood Banshee.
It was more of a shrieking match than anything else. It was one of those situations where Cantriel basically tapped into her own grit and faith in her strength, and she actually didn't tell anyone about it. So it was one night she went out, and rather than fight the Banshee, it was more find out why the Banshee was. And in actually talking with the Banshee, she found out the Banshee's story about the Banshee's loss and anger and hurt. And in speaking with her, the Banshee, Cantriel, shared some pieces of her own. And it was actually through this mutual understanding of each other that it wasn't so much that the Banshee went in for battle, but sort of moved on and left the wood in peace instead. But only after they both had a very good howl at the moon.
I love it. And this broken mirror was all that was remained of the area that she had claimed, sort of a leaving behind as she left this last vestige that tied her to her former life. It's only a few moments before you hear the children come running up. How do you spend your time with the huddled children?
Oh, first things first, she scoops them all up into big hugs, and when she gets to Trout, she kind of picks them up and pops them on her hip. Now, how many did you steal? And are they your mother's?
Trout reaches into his, I just picture him, he has sort of like almost like bib overalls, and kind of reaches into this front pocket. Just like you taught me. One for me, one for you. And never touch Talmud's cookies.
Good.
They still are terrible.
What'd he do? Smoke the house out this time?
Think he tried to blow up the kitchen?
So that was the boom.
Hey, that was bad. We left as Mom was laying into him. Something fierce.
Well, maybe he'll get a taste of something today then, at least.
His own biscuits?
Oh, that would be cruel.
As you go about spending the afternoon with the huddled children, I imagine they spend a little bit of time with you each day, and you are able to, regardless of what you're working on, they are eager to help out. I would also imagine at some point, one or two of Victor's gazer children flit about. Victor has taken his job as town protector very seriously, to the point that Nimsy Huddle actually gave him the title of constable. And one of the things that he seems to have developed in his unique form as a beholder is his gazer children can go anywhere independently of him throughout the town. But because each one of them has a central eye and 4 tiny eye stalks, Victor likes to remind people that he has 51 eyes and he can see everything. And he can see through any of his gazer children's eyes and he can summon them to him in an instant if needed. So it's not unusual to see one or two of these little softball-sized gazers flitting about. I imagine a couple of them show up and are helping as much as they can with the huddled children. As somewhere during this, I would imagine, I think first we're going to go to Fig. Fig, you've been spending your time, at least some of your time, you've been dividing it between intermittent work with Thorgarn in preparation of crafting and ultimately working on this staff. Where do you go when you're not in Lonelywood?
I think often you see Fig trudging out into the middle of the woods outside of Lonelywood, where you see the wind and the snow kind of blowing around Fig. And as he gets to the center of the woods where he always goes, you see him take out this amulet. He kind of holds it in his hand and looks down at it and closes and you see the lights of his eyes go out as if he's blinking or closing his eyes, and he imagines a library, vast and underground, and he sees that wall that through the water, that force, and he imagines himself passing through it. And then when he opens his eyes next, he is there in Copernicus's library, and he resumes his work. You can see that the library has pretty much been picked apart at this point. Books lay in different but very important to Fig, like different piles that seem disarray, but to Fig that they have different meanings, and the piles are put together, and you see pages and pages of notes and figures and drawings that resemble Copernicus's, but you slowly begin to see that more and more of these pages are Fig's drawings, Fig's writing, and they begin to kind of take on a characteristic of their own. The figures begin to look different as Fig tries to learn what it means to create life.
I would like you, and I believe I'm giving you the first roll of the season. I would like you to roll a D100. No, actually, Jeremy had the first roll.
First
We
roll
won't
was
count it.
the
It's
god
fine.
awful cookies. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It was
like,
hardly
wait a minute, there was
even
a roll involved. So yeah, roll a D100.
25.
Okay. That was sort of a catch-all, just to make sure that at any point during your frequent travels with the amulet that you didn't end up in a plane other than the one you intended to go to. I think because of your attunement to this amulet that was gifted to you by Garathan, and your intimate familiarity with this plane that you are going to, you have no problems returning to it whenever you want. You have this extraplanar sort of private study away from everybody. But at some point, so yeah, you're spending a lot of time in study there we're actually going to then flip over to somewhere in town, possibly even at the Ramshackle Inn that you all now own. I imagine out back of this, there's whether an actual forge smithy was there or Thorgarn put something together. You can tell us, but Thorgarn hard at work on crafting something. What are you doing?
So I believe he started and wanted to make a very small bracer. It's kind of apropos for the fact that we've all got one except for one member of the party. So he's been trying to eyeball the measurements and have it be a surprise for once we set off upon the next mission. So I imagine the final touches of that are being taken care of.
So you're working on that, and then at some point, rather, now we'll come back to that. I would like all of you actually to roll me perception. I know it's the ridiculousness of asking any kind of perception check from Cantriel.
29.
12. This is double digits.
21.
I just saw
8.
Dan shaking his head, so I'm assuming it was pretty low.
Yeah, it's an 8.
And we got a 12 and a 10. Okay. So Cantriel, you're the only one that notices that over the course of the few weeks that you're here in Lonelywood, just sort of keeping the town running and helping everybody out. One day, you go almost the entire day where you saw Rollo in the morning. And then you didn't see her in the afternoon or the evening. The next day, you didn't see Rollo in the morning. What would you do when you realize that you haven't seen Rollo for close to 24 hours?
Oh, we're sending a message. I still have that one? I think I have that. Yes, I'm going to send a message. Where have you flown off to? Are you okay? Do you need me to find you?
Do you respond when you receive this magical message, Rollo?
Yes. There's a pause for a few minutes, and you get a response, and the voice sounds kind of out of breath, like maybe physically exerting herself, and she says,
Family came and got Rollo. Everything is okay for now. I hope. Please don't make me eat Talmud cookies when I get home.
Okay, so Cantriel is slightly concerned. But she'll let Rollo do what Rollo is doing and have faith in Rollo's independence.
Rollo, I would like you to roll. I'm going to have you first roll an investigation check.
okay. Oh, yeah, I'm good at investigation. I didn't realize I was so good at investigation. That's a 24.
Okay? I'm going to keep two totals here. We'll just see what happens in a moment. I would like you to roll a wisdom check.
Oh, no, that's a 4.
Okay?
I rolled a 1. So the investigation went a lot better.
I would like you to roll a dexterity saving throw.
It's an 8.
Okay. I would like you to roll. Actually, I'm going to roll a couple of things. What is your spell saving DC?
18.
All right, one more. Oh, that's a critical fail. Okay, Rollo. To start with, we're going to see over the course of a few days, we see you. First off, who do we see you with?
You see Rollo, and her wings are tied around her torso with some rope that carries down to her arms and binds her wrists, and she's being led by a group of 4 white kobolds. And they are trudging through the snow, and every time Rollo tries to speak, one of them turns around and like pops around the tip of the nose.
You no speak. Okay.
They take you quite a ways into the snowy wilderness to the southeast before you barely even notice the transition that you've moved from across the surface of the snow to moving into a crevasse where these kobolds have holed up in a small series of ice caverns, and you can tell they've dug some out themselves. How many kobolds are in this warren?
Oh, there's about 35, 40.
And
It's
I would
a
say,
big one.
excuse me, I would say probably a full third of them are kobold children, barely hatchlings from this tribe. Well, I'll let you tell. Why have they napped you?
The 4 of them bring Rollo in, and she kind of looks around the cavern, and they pull her up to this big, strangely beefy looking kobold. And he's sitting up on this rock that's got pebbles stacked up behind it, and it kind of makes like a little throne. And he's sitting there, and he goes,
Rollo, you are home.
and Rollo goes,
Is Rollo allowed to speak now? Yes, you can speak. Actually, no, Rollo, no speak. You not fill our minds with your musings. Okay.
and he ends up telling Rollo that they have had a group of Yeti that have been trying to settle into this cave and have been kind of making strafing attacks periodically against the kobolds. And a lot of their defenders are too injured to continue protecting the family. And so they had heard tell that she had worked with a group called the Dawnbringers, and that they had defeated the Ice Maiden or the Frost Maiden. And so the family came to find her because they felt she could probably fix the problem with the Yetis.
And they absolutely do refer to it in their, whether it's true or not, for them, this group of Yetis that are giving him a problem are a yodel of Yetis. So, with your investigation check, how do you successfully track down this yodel?
She goes outside after they untie her hands, but they leave her wings bound to her body. And she gets outside and kind of sniffs at the air. And she stops for a second. And for a moment, she considers casting teleport and just going back to Lonely Wood. But then she kind of turns around and glances behind her again, and she sees the kobold children kind of standing at the opening of the cave looking at her because they've never seen an Erd before, and it's fascinating. And they shouldn't be looking, but they're looking. And she kind of sighs and begins trudging out into the snow, and she waits until she's out of sight, and then she cuts the rope that's binding her wings, and she sort of hovers above the ground and just takes a big sniff and sort of scans the area, and she catches the scent of this just stinking, rotting meat and dirt and all sorts of muck scent. It's very faint, but she catches it. And so she takes to the air and begins flying in the direction that the wind was coming from, presuming the wind carried it to her. So she flies against the wind, and as she does so, the scent begins getting stronger and stronger, and nobody thinks to look up. So she manages to weave between the pine trees and finds the camp that the yodel is currently positioned around. And she takes a perch up on the top of one of the spruce trees and just watches them.
And as you perch in this tree, the failed wisdom saving throw, or wisdom check rather, is as you settle into this tree, you hear, and you turn, and on one of the other branches of this very same tree is a Yeti, youngling.
And Rollo holds out her hand. And let me make sure I can do this. Yes, I can. Rollo holds out her hand, and in her palm is a little snowflake that appears. And it begins to roll around her hand. And as it rolls, it begins getting bigger and bigger until it turns into a little ball of snow. And then a chunk breaks off it, and it turns into two balls of snow that are rolling around in her palm. And then one of them pops up on the other, and little twigs pop out from its arms. And this little snowman begins kind of dancing and rocking in her hand.
Be very quiet, or you'll scare him.
The young Yeti seems amused by this, and then all of a sudden it reaches out and it basically tries to smack it out of your hand, but your failed dex saving throw is why you get smacked right out of the tree. And you land right in the midst of this Yodel of Yetis camp. How do you deal? I won't say defeat, I won't say destroy. How do you deal successfully with this Yodel of Yetis?
So she lands in the middle of this yodel, and as she's falling, she does like a Wilhelm scream and lands on her back and just kind of looks up at the yodel as they all turn around And she scrambles to her feet and kind of dodges around like a little puppy, kind of bouncing around where it just wiggles and you can't catch the puppy. And she manages to dart between one of their legs and begins running. And she tries to take off, but her right wing was injured when she was knocked out of the tree, so she can't fly. And so she begins just running on all fours on the ground, just trying as fast, just scrambling as fast as she can. And she hears the group coming up behind her. And she begins, the snow around her feet sort of springs up and curls and turns to mist, and she's instantly 30 feet further forward. And she continues to run as these Yetis get closer. And every time they get closer, she misty steps. She can't remember exactly how to get back, but her first thought is, I need help. So she starts trying to find her way back to the cave where the kobolds are. And she's running along the side of this rock face, this cliff face, for it must have been an hour or two with these Yeti just hot on her tail. And she comes across a cave opening. And she goes running in and thinking,
Okay, Rollo going to be safe now. Everything okay. Oh, family came and got me. Everything is okay for now, I think. Please don't make me eat Talmud cookies when I get home.
and then she runs into the cave and starts kind of scrambling around looking for some place to hide. She's looking for a rock to hide behind. And got a 17 to hide.
Okay.
Is that successful?
Yes.
Okay, so she's hidden, and she's kind of wedged into this little crevasse in the cave, and the Yetis come in, and she can't understand what they're saying because she doesn't speak Yeti, but they're grunting, and there's an air of being pleased to their grunts. And she stays in her little nook as the Yeti began kind of moving around and clawing at the walls, and one of them comes in a few minutes later dragging a tree behind it and throws the tree in a corner and then kind of flumps down on the tree, just making itself at home. Because the Yeti found another cave that would work. And so Rollo waits until night when they all go to bed, and then she creeps out as quietly as she can. And she walks along the rock wall until she finds the cave where the kobolds live. And she creeps inside and goes to the big one, the big kobold who had been sitting on the pebble throne earlier. And she creeps up to him, and out of nowhere, two kobolds appear. They're his bodyguards. And she throws her hands up and explains to the guards that she needs to speak with the big one. And they, after some arguing back and forth, they actually wake him, and he comes bumbling over.
Rollo, what you doing here? Rollo, help Yeti find another cave. I don't think they bother you anymore.
And you're not dead?
No.
Oh well. You live again. Get away.
Okay. Bye.
And Rollo scampers to the entrance of the cave and tries to flex her wings, but her right one still just is it. She realizes that it's been knocked out of joint, and so she sighs, and she thinks of Cantriel's hair and how it just kind of falls in those pretty curls, and she closes her eyes really tight and focuses on that hair, and as she exhales, her whole form just sort of breaks up into snow particles that flutter to the ground. And when she opens her eyes again, she has teleported, and she's curled up on Cantriel's hair.
Made it back in one piece?
Yes. Well,
Are
kind
you?
of. Rollo
So you-
hurt her wing.
Oh, well, that won't do. And Cantriel will just sort of like rub her hand against Rollo's wings, and at the same time, she'll do a cure wounds to fix.
And this, as we sort of pull back away from Rollo sitting curled up with Cantriel, we see all 10 of the Gazer children, the 4 Huddle children, a few other of the townsfolk children, all seated in the back of Cantriel's cabin, listening to you, Rollo, just retell this story to all of them of your harrowing adventure with the Yodel of the Yetis. Katie over here narrating an entire one shot.
It's what I do.
I love it. At some point, I imagine, Thorgarn, you will have completed at some point the bracer that you had made.
Was I able to find any? I mean, I don't know how rare or how available, I should say, other types of metals are beyond the Chardalin within Icewind Dale.
I'm assuming you're not wanting to work with Chardalin.
Yeah, I've already had a bad experience with that. But I don't want to hurt my armor because it's it's pretty nice. But
I was gonna say, I know where you could get some adamantine. Make me an investigation check.
Oh.
Me making the dwarves make these intelligence checks.
Yeah. I mean, at least it's not a negative here, but it's absolutely not a bonus. So that's going to be a 16.
I will say that with a 16 and being in Lonelywood, you are able to get quality steel and iron, whatever of the primary metals you'd want to work with. You also have access through some of the stuff you have in the treasure hoard that you acquired for plenty of gold, platinum, silver, copper, all of those. You had 42,000 platinum pieces, I believe.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
so you have access to that, but you also, because this is primarily a hunting and logging community, you also have access to prime leathers and woods.
So I will hold off for the time being. Perhaps later adventures will, put me in touch with something a little bit more, shall we say, fashionable. I don't know how much I want to be walking around with a platinum war pick, but I just don't want to make the thing out of steel. I think it deserves to be something better. So when Fig is off doing their own thing or his own thing, he would just kind of tinker around, work with the blacksmith in town and just help out with whatever he can in that regards to keep up.
Actually,
on
Thorgarn,
crafting angle.
You are the blacksmith in town.
Oh, I am the blacksmith in town. Okay, well,
Lonelywood doesn't really have their own blacksmith.
Okay, well,
so what you set up is the only forge. There were a couple of hobbyists, that could make their own stuff. a little bit here and there, but you're the only true blacksmith in town.
Well, then I would absolutely educate any that are interested, and if we've got the capacity to like set up a full on like serious forge, like build the building, get all of the tools together, acquire the whatever steel and make, have them all make their own tools and walk them through. So like, oh, well, you need this type of hammer or these type of hammers, these type of clamps, you need these things so that when I eventually do go, that, the town is better off for, us being there, because, metal is necessary for life. And, you blow out the kitchen, who's going to fix the oven?
I would say, particularly given that you sort of set this up at kind of behind or alongside the Ramshackle, that you find a very interested student who actually knows a few things in Ravost, the half-elf who is the one who first greeted you when you came to Lonelywood, and is the I guess boyfriend of Yesha. Ravost would have explained to you, he just showed up one day while you were working and just started tending to the forge in a way that showed that he kind of knew what was going on. And he just said that, my dad was a smith. I didn't have an interest in it when I was younger, but that didn't stop him from making me help him.
Now, there's obviously going to have to be a caveat here. If I'm teaching someone about smithing, there's obviously going to be, a bit of Moradin mixed into all of that. I am a cleric, so, got to throw that out there. It's not a requirement, but he's at least got to suffer through the wheres and the hows and the whys and all that.
I think you would find in Ravost a very rapt attention, and that he seems very much I can't think of the word that I'm trying to say. He's interested in everything you're saying about Moradin, and seems he's not resistant to it at all. I cool. Honestly, I've completely lost the ability to recall whatever word it was I was looking for, but he's completely into it. And he I would say even to the point that at one point during several days into it, he's working a piece of metal, and you hear him sort of mumbling. You think he's talking to himself at first, and you hear him saying, "Look, I know I'm not a dwarf, but a dwarf's teaching me. So that's got to count for something, right? You could lend your blessing to my hammer. Appreciate it." And basically you catch him praying to Moradin as he works the metal.
It's not quite the same thing, but I will actually offer a bit of, shall we say, guidance, and I will actually incant and offer my own prayer into what he's working on.
Make me a religion check.
Now that I've got a bonus to.
8 levels of paladin, I would hope so.
So that's a 17 on the die for a 22.
Okay. You sort of say your own prayer, and you notice that as he's working the metal, for a moment you swear that you see almost like a spectral form of Moradin superimposed over Ravost's form, and you just see this spectral dwarven hand sort of guiding Ravost's hammer just for a moment, and you know that he's going to do all right.
So I will just kind of whisper Celestial.
You cut out for a second at the end there.
Oh, so I'll just whisper in Celestial. Thank you.
There's no response.
I wasn't expecting one. I mean, as many times as I've, met or interacted with, an aspect, anything more than once is kind of a shock. So I just accept it.
And so I imagine that at some point while you're out working in the forge and teaching Ravost, and there's a couple others that are just sort of helping, but they're nowhere near as skilled with the metal. They may find apprentices, sure. But they are in no way blessed by Moradin, as or like Ravost. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, with combat and emotions and that kind of stuff, he gets more into hard to control his emotions and rage and all that stuff. But when it comes to actually like working with the metal, it's something where he's got all the patience in the world. So like he'll help and guide as much as they want, and encourage where they're failing, to say like each error is just like the next step of what not to do. So like, yeah, these guys might not be experts down the road, but if they can hammer nails and make wedges for what they need and improve on the tools that they've got, then they're already better. This town is already better off for it. So.
And as you're working out in this forge with them, we sort of pull back and move into across the yard and through the open cellar doors of the Ramshackle, and we move down inside where on this day Talmud is down in the cellar with Yesha, and to your surprise or not to your surprise, Yesha, who is a human woman, is not. She's moving some stones that are not as big as what you're capable of moving, Talmud, but she's holding her own. And over the last few weeks, she's starting. You can see she's starting to develop more defined muscles as she's been helping you firm up the foundation on this place. And what you're working on today is if you recall in the maps I provided you of what the Ramshackle looks like, there's two areas in the cellar. There's the main cellar area and the secondary cellar area, which was hidden behind a secret door. And it's sort of adjusting this secret door is what you're working on now. How are you talking to her, or are you teaching her? What are you guys talking about down there?
So for the last little bit here, he hasn't been moving any of the stones himself. She seems, capable of doing so, and maybe even a little insistent at doing so. So he's kind of letting her handle that. And instead, he's actually sitting in front of one of the blocks that kind of form the kind of new foundation inside the secret room. And he actually has a piece of leather that has been kind of laid out and unrolled, and it's filled with various sizes of chisels and small hammers and things of that nature, his mason's tools. And he kind of leans forward and kind of blows off the one stone that he's sitting in front of and kind of wipes it away and leans back so he can get a little bit of distance to see his handiwork. And then we kind of see him turn to look down the side of these stones. And as we kind of like pan backwards, we can see that each of these stones has been carved into a caricaturized kind of version of one of the Dawnbringers, including, the extended family, as it were, Yesha and several of the others who we've kind of come to call secondary Dawnbringers, as it were. And she sets down one of these stones, and he kind of just a look of admiration kind of dawns on his face. And he says, I do believe that you're getting stronger, Yesha. That stone right there, 4 days ago, you had to put one down that was smaller than that. But look at you now.
Well, I can't let you be moving all of these by yourself. Besides,
Well,
when
sorry, go ahead.
when you all move on, I'm gonna have to keep this place running.
You have a fair point. But I think you'll manage just fine.
Well, these kegs
Especially
aren't gonna
now.
walk themselves out of the cellar.
No. These kegs, and he kind of like tucks down like a corner of a canvas tarp, kind of over the special reserve in the corner. These kegs stay here in the cellar. The other kegs, those can move. That's fine.
I've told you, I'm not going to touch your Kiergan. Well, I'm not going to sell your Kiergan.
But he kind of like ponders the difference for a second. Well,
She kind of reaches with her foot and just gently pushes an empty bottle back behind one of the stones.
well, I'm sure that you're going to do great. You've already done such a wonderful job at getting this place back up and running again. I think it's now that the weather's turned and things seem to be a little more settled here in Icewind Dale. I think there may be more people who travel up this way.
Well, the fishmongers and have been moving up and down the roads, delivering fish to the other towns. The other wagons have been coming into town. I hear that Dugan's Hole has already rebuilt the townspeaker's house, and I've heard tell that Drown spent some time with Oyamin Turak in Dugan's Hole, helping them out. So things are on the mend. I think we'll be all right. There's just one thing.
Right.
Ramshackle's kind of a silly name for this place now that it's all fixed up.
I hadn't really thought about it, but I suppose you're right. What do you think that we should call it? I mean,
I'm just running the place.
Responsibility.
You all own it. I'm just managing it for you.
But I think that you should have a good say in it. You've put in
a
lot of work that the rest of us haven't.
Why don't you and the others see if you can come up with a name, and I'll exercise veto, just in case.
Oh, I see. That's probably a good idea.
I love
Thorgarn
Rollo
up
to
with some
death. I love Rollo to death, but I don't know if I trust any name she gave the place.
I don't know. The Boom Boom Inn sounded pretty good to me.
Wait, it's not that kind of place. And
He blushes visibly.
so I imagine we move out of this place and we at some point, again, it's kind of a covering several days over the time. Drown, you absolutely would have been able to go to Dugan's Hole. I imagine on their rounds through the 10 towns, Oya Mintarok would make their way back. Having spoken, you spoke to her after everything was resolved and when you returned to Lonely Wood. And you made sure that she knew all about the Chardalin at the bottom of the Red Waters. But I would say maybe a 10-day later, Oya Mintarok comes back through and basically invites you to come along to Dugan's Hole and help with the salvage and disposal.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's, I don't know, reasonably deep in the waters at that point, and there's a lot of it, given the size of the Chardalin dragon. And
I imagine that you and Oya Mintarok are uniquely equipped physically for kind of managing the underwater portions of this, and you in particular. But what do you do? How do you and Oya Mintarok go about disposing of the Chardalin?
Well, that is kind of the question, right? That's one of the things that we kind of put to her was like, is there any place we can take this, particularly some place that's infused with otherworldly energies or that touches maybe close to another plane that isn't, a place of demonic horror, that maybe this stuff will soak up instead of all of the bad vibes it's full of. If not, then kind of the best Drown can think of is to try and haul this stuff somewhere where nobody can get at it, like maybe a crevice in the mountain or someplace that they could bury it under an avalanche, something like that, to at least just make it hard to get to.
And I think Oya Mintarok would say that out beyond Kelvin's Cairn, there's lots of crevasses and places that open up, but then as the ice shelves shift, they close back up, and you're able to take what you've salvaged, and I imagine kind of creating these sort of intermittent like shifts on these sledges, so that nobody is spending a prolonged period of time in close proximity to the Chardalin.
So actually, one of the things Drown can do is, and he'll suggest, if they can scout out an appropriate place and just find one of these, karsts or crevasses that they want to bury this stuff in, he'll take a piece of ice, not ice, something that'll last, like a chunk of stone or a pebble or something from down at the bottom of it, and take it with him, because once they get the pieces of the Chardalin kind of gathered together, they can pack them into crates that are no bigger than 10 feet on a side, and then he can use the helm to teleport them to the bottom of the crevasse.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. You are able to do that.
So he can only do 3 10-foot cubes worth of object a day, but I imagine you can pack an awful lot of Chardalin if we break it down into pieces into a decent sized crate.
Yeah, I mean, you probably end up putting a good 10 days worth of work in.
That's fair.
In kind of intermittent while you're on cooldown for the helm, helping, assisting the town just in rebuilding. They had that whole swath from the dock to the townspeaker's house that was completely obliterated. And so you spend some time there, and then Fig, at one point, at more than one point actually, you intermittently are working with Thorgarn on sort of crafting, the design and crafting of this staff that is being made from one of the salvaged horns of Arviatris from when you killed her the first time. Fig, with the assistance of Thorgarn, I would like to know what you are trying to make.
Trying to make some kind of magical staff that Fig can use. I think a part of what Fig has been doing also, in addition to reading Copernicus's writings, is to try and find out how he glamored his armor that Fig was wearing in order to be able to put the same kind of glamour on this staff.
Okay.
So I think, Thorgarn is kind of being assistant here. He went through a process in order to help enchant Gareth de Brelnay, but with the staff, it's like, okay, I've done some stuff. It was kind of a go by the seat of my pants thing. This is your show. What are you looking for here, Fig? Is we looking for a focus? Are we looking for a tool that's going to have, extra spells? He's providing his little tiny bit of experience of I made something magical once. So Em, this is your show.
Yeah, so I think Fig would. I'm not sure what Fig would want. I do think that Fig wants something, but I think with how Fig approaches things, it's looks and aesthetics first, even if they're very bizarre aesthetics, and maybe the most usefulness of it is a bit of a second thought, maybe to the annoyance of Thorgarn a little bit. I can imagine that there's some talk about how one aspect of the staff is just impossible to do with what we have and stuff. So I'm sure there's a little bit of back and forth, but I think that ultimately Fig lands on some type of focus for him to be able to perhaps focus and amplify some of his spells, especially with that dragon part to act. He kind of wants that to act like the focus in the center of this staff, and maybe also have some other hidden uses.
Sensing, that we eventually have to go up against a Chardalon. Perhaps if I can encourage a little bit of hey, we already called upon the aspect of a dragon foe with Gareth de Brelnay, and knowing we're gonna go up against a mighty red dragon, anything that might direct power in that direction. I think Thorgarn has enough forethought, especially having talked with the super intelligent Fig, to lean in some of our magical formulae in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
This is a process that's kind of been going back and forth that started prior to Fig's head exploding, and then I imagine more work got done when they technically shared a headspace.
Mhm.
So this is just the final culmination of said planning.
So what I need from the two of you is you're each going to make 3 skill checks. You're going to tell me which skill check and how you're using it.
I think the very first thing Fake wants to focus on is getting the power and the magic into the staff, and kind of imbuing it with that kind of energy and power. So for Fig, I think he's kind of focusing more on the magical side of it. If everyone would focus more on the building and the craftsmanship of it.
Sure.
So Fig would do a Arcana check.
Okay.
I rolled a natural 20 for a total of 30.
Okay. If ever there was a check you wanted to roll high on, that was probably it.
Wow. It made a little thing on D&D Beyond. That was very exciting.
Fantastic. Thorgarn, what about you?
All right. So we're making multiple checks and they're not to be the same thing, correct?
Correct.
So I would imagine an aspect.
Sorry. And I said that all wrong because I said you're each going to roll 3 checks. It's not 6 total checks.
Okay.
You're going to roll a check now with whatever skill and tell me what it is. And then I'm going to have you both roll a skill.
Okay. All right. So we're making a total of 2 skills. So we had somebody do the carving, but we're going to, accent that with some inlays in the set grooves of whatever gold, silver, platinum, copper that Fig prefers. I believe it was copper because that's your thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's also a cheaper direction. So I was thinking that going with smith tools would probably be fitting here.
Okay.
And which stat would you feel that would be more inclined towards?
Your smith tools is actually going to be 1 second. I'm double checking this. Where did it go? I had this open in preparation. I just didn't know where you were going. Oh. No, those are. I can do alphabet. There we go. I would say Arcana or History.
No, I'm going to use the tool, the Smith tools proficiency, but
right.
Tools can be adjusted to any stat you feel is appropriate.
Right. I'm saying that. Oh wait, sorry. Nope, because that's the wrong thing. That's an examination. Let's just go with your dexterity because you're fine crafting.
All right. So now this is not exactly my forte. So I'm going to ask 2 questions. Can I use guidance? And do I get Forge Fanes' magical bonus by any chance?
Wait. What was the first one you asked?
Can I cast guidance?
Oh, well, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. I was trying to remember Forge Fane.
Sorry, my magical warhammer.
Right.
It does not normally apply to anything beyond attack and damage rolls, but
is this the one? Are you reducing it down to the Forge Hammer?
To the hammer, yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Excellent.
Well, you also have 170 domain dice at your disposal. I'm just saying.
Right, but I want this to come out well for Fig. So, all right. Well, I will absolutely be using a domain die. I'll do another one. That's better. All right. So that's going to be 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. It's going to be a total of 24.
That'll do.
Sorry, the 3 and the 4 on the die, I just couldn't stand when it's trying to craft something for a friend.
Now, for the final check, you are working together to sort of finalize this. This has been taking place, sort of the craftsmanship and all of this has been taking place over days and days and days. But this final step is taking place over hours on this day. Mm-hmm. Each of you, what skill are you using? And I'm going to have you roll, and I have a DC that you need to hit.
I'm going to use insight.
Okay.
And I'm explaining that so that pretty much from moment 1 of meeting Fig, Thorgarn has had a connection with him. And it's gone even more so with them technically sharing a brain for a little bit of time. So he's using his skill and his experience from his direction, and Fig is from his. And he's trying to just like, look, take the lead and I'll follow. I'll do as you want and guide where is necessary. So I think insight here is most apropos.
All right. And then Fig, what are you going to use for this final step?
Wow, I was unmuted and then I just muted myself. So I would like to use his alchemy tools in order to just put some final magical touches on the staff itself. I imagine that this is going to be a very fluid and moving looking staff. So it's going to be full of little clockwork figurines and figures that kind of dance around the staff, and little cogs and stuff, just very reticent of Fig's kind of alchemical magic. And he's going to use all the alchemy and the salts and stuff to just and fire and all that just to kind of make it and turn it into this alchemical staff kind of thing.
Okay, sorry. Half of my windows just froze. Are you guys still hearing me?
Yes.
Yes.
All of my browser windows just froze.
Oh,
so
no.
the stream froze for me. So are we still streaming? Somebody in chat just confirm that for me. I just noticed I can't access.
Stream looks good.
All right, I'm not going to touch anything. I just can no longer look at D&D Beyond. Oh, wait. All right, there we go. It just fixed itself. Everything went black and then came back. So, sorry,
Right.
technical glitch. Okay, so weirdly, the window that I had open just closed, but whatever. All right, Ted, go ahead and roll your insight check. And go ahead and add your intelligence plus your proficiency bonus with your alchemy tools, Fig.
Yep.
I used 3 domain dice because the first 3 rolls was nothing below a 5. But finally, I've got a 29.
Okay, you can double check in D&D Beyond. I rolled 2 natural 20s.
I
for a
believe
total of
you.
30.
I believe
Yeah,
you.
wow.
So your total was 30 again?
Yeah.
And Thorgarn got a 29?
Yes, sir.
The DC was 30 for this check, the combined check between the two of you. So each one of you, not that you each had to hit, but combined you needed to get enough. And chat's kind enough to replace those 2 domain dice you spent.
Oh,
thank you so much for that.
thank you so much.
And so there is a tremendous flash of light and arcane energy as you put the finishing touches on it, and standing in the middle of the workshop, seeming to stand of its own accord, this what was once one of the bony horns of Arviatris the dragon. And it had also been scrimshawed. I believe you had a Riskri Harrowhall from the Scrimshander, Happy Scrimshander, do a bunch of scrimshaw carvings on it.
Yep.
Along with the touches you've put into this entire thing has all of these carvings are inlaid with copper. And you watch as we sort of pan up this thing as these intricate carvings and this copper seems to flow like liquid, and it's just and slightly shifting and changing shape with these micro gears, and every time they move you see that sort of arcane blue energy that is Fig's signature within, as it kind of works its way up towards the top. And the whole time I just imagine there's like a little clockwork figure of some sort of maybe even reminiscent of Hermes that just seems to be spiraling all the way up to the top of this as it reaches the top, and then there's just that burst of arcane energy, and your staff is successfully enchanted. And that's where we're going to take our break. I just gotta say, it is awesome to be back again with season 6 with all of you amazing people. This is just the first half of our session. We will be back in about 10 minutes with some more. Thank you everybody who has tuned in so far. Thank you for those subs and those tips and those bits and everything else that are contributing to the domain dice. I think the Dawnbringers are going to be doing okay in season 6 when it comes to domain dice. But we'll be back in 10 minutes. Please stick around for some more Dawnbringers, Wild Beyond the WitchLight. And we're back. Welcome back, everybody, to the Dawnbringers, Season 6, Wild Beyond the Witchlight, brought to us by Session Zero Clothing. Hit type !0 ZERO in the chat to find a special affiliate URL and a code MTD0 to get 10% off your order from Session Zero Clothing, our new sponsor of the Dawnbringers. All right. We've seen what each of the Dawnbringers has been up to over the course of this several days, a couple of weeks, but we are going to rejoin in Lonelywood at the what is currently known as the Ramshackle Inn, where once a week in the main entryway, the tables are all pushed together, and Nimsy Huddle bakes and cooks along with the help of anybody else that wants to help. By this point, Talmud, you have been granted permission to carry the foods that Nimsy has prepared, though you still haven't quite honed your cooking to the level of Nimsy's approval. But this is sort of a once a week gathering where all of the Dawnbringers and Yesha and Ravost and Nimsy and her children, Victor and the Gazer children, everybody gathers here around the table for a shared meal. And lots of great food. Somewhere I have a table that I saved, and I forgot to get it out for this, so you don't get some in-depth meal description. Suffice it to say, there's lots of great food and baked goods and conversation. I'm not even going to make anybody roll for this because Cantriel's going to notice it anyway. As somewhere in the course of the meal is, and I just imagine this is like, it's like Thanksgiving every week. Everybody's gathered around, food's being passed around. There's multiple conversations are happening. There's a table set off to the side that's got the children are seated around it. And the Victor's Gazer children kind of float back and forth. Everybody's occasionally pass me the mashed potatoes, pass me the fish. Cantriel, at one point, you hear next to you, if you wouldn't mind, I would like that basket of biscuits. I'm told Talmud did not prepare those.
Yes, you don't want the Talmud type.
And you turn as you grab the basket of biscuits to pass over to this individual. And this is not somebody you've seen for quite some time. As seated at the table in a chair and place setting that wasn't there moments ago is Sabine the Chronicler, the satyr that you met on the Feywild, who was chronicling your histories on the walls before you passed into the Nightfang Spire.
If you're looking for Griffith, he's not here.
Oh, yeah, I'm well aware of Griffith's departure. I foresaw that in my artistic endeavors.
So what brings you here?
Oh, well, Nimsy Huddle's infamous halfling cookies, for one. Yes.
What's
Delightful.
the for two?
Oh, for two. Well, we have a mutual acquaintance. It's come to my attention that, well, the Dawnbringers are needing access into the Feywild. Not to be confused with our island sanctuary and sort of, well, you've been there, you know what it is.
Yes, I've been to both.
I'm talking about the actual Feywild.
Right. So you can help us?
Yes, that is why I'm here. It has taken a bit of time to get the vested parties to agree to a departure of what they were originally, where they were planning on going. And I said, now you listen here. The Evangeline says it must be, then this is what must be, and of course they didn't believe me, and it took much convincing, and well, suffice it to say, very shortly the Feywild gate will present itself.
You didn't make any promises to anyone, did you?
He pushes up a small gold-rimmed spectacles on his face and says, with all due respect, this is not my first time dealing with the denizens of the Feywild. I made no promises. I made no bargains or deals.
Good. Because as one of the denizens, I know it can be very tricky.
Oh, indeed. And, well, you've been away for quite some time, though I doubt you will find too terribly much to surprise you, though perhaps a few surprises remain.
Well, it is the Feywild.
Yes. And I would say about this time more of you start to realize that Cantriel is talking to somebody who, well, Rollo, you have no idea who this person is. What you see is a satyr who seems to be, well, quite frankly, he's way overdressed for the way the weather is here. He's got a heavy sweater, a scarf that's wrapped around a few times. He's wearing fingerless gloves. And you can see even now he's trying not to look like he's getting a little too warm as he sort of loosens the scarf. Well, I was told that it was quite frozen up here.
Well, it was, but then we sort of helped things along like we tend to.
Yes, I've been a bit diverted on this particular task, but I cannot wait. I've got a prime section of the cliff wall for the fortress flying through the sky.
Dran, who is the man with the furry legs?
That is a chronicler from the Feywild.
Oh.
He drew the history of most of the Dawnbringers in chalk. He is quite skilled.
Wow. That's very impressive.
Yes.
Hello, Chronicler. I am Rollo.
Yes, hello, Rollo. I am Sabine. Will suffice. The chronicler is my profession. Sabine is my name.
Sabine. Got it. Rollo will do everything she can to remember Sabine.
Excellent.
And Sabine, when did you get here? Look, you have to try one of these. And he goes straight up to him and pushes one into his mouth.
Go ahead and roll me. And I'm going to call this one a wisdom check.
You need to roll a dex save, Jake.
Right.
Or maybe a con save.
Oh, no. Sabine is too polite to resist. Oh, a wisdom check, not save. Wisdom check, Talmud.
Wisdom check.
Did you know to use sugar instead of salt? That's wisdom.
Like we were talking about earlier in chat, it's entirely possible there may be a little bit of a meat product in these somewhere. So, yeah. That's a 5.
Meat cookies.
That's a 5? Sabine,
it's a 5.
You stick this cookie in his mouth and he goes, yes, that is, that is quite,
He's speechless.
It just gets everywhere in my mouth. Every one of my taste buds.
There is no escaping the flavor.
No. I do believe there's a bit of nutmeg, salt, sugar, and is that ham?
Raw sea sponge.
That's the secret ingredient.
Very well done, Talmud. Very well done indeed.
He turns to the rest of the group like, see?
As you turn to the rest of the group, Sabine takes his napkin and just goes, yes, delightful. If I may have. And he just takes a very, takes one of the pitchers of some kind of drink on the table and just straight from the pitcher.
Cantriel hands him another one when he finishes.
Another pitcher?
Are there any biscuits on the table that Talmud made?
No, Nimsy would not have allowed them. I think Talmud keeps some of his cookies on his person.
That was a pocket cookie.
Would like, I'm going out there. Rollo snuck one of those biscuits that Talmud made, and she likes them.
Oh boy.
And so she has pocketed a couple of those biscuits, and she just pulls one out and bites into it, and it starts exploding in her mouth like Pop Rocks. And so she opens her mouth, and you hear that.
While you're chewing, every time you close your mouth, your cheeks just glow with little puffs of light, sparks. little little wisps of smoke come out of your nostrils. I did not go into this session thinking I was going to have to stat out some biscuits, but here we are.
But here we are.
So, Sabine, does it mean that if you're here that we're to be departing soon?
Yes.
Well, then, since we've got a party and we've got a new destination in mind, I think it's time that I pull this out. And and from one of my couches on my side, I kind of go over to Rollo and say, "You're coming with us, right?"
If you have, well, yes.
Well, I've kind of made one of these for everyone else. And if you're coming with us, that means you're a Dawnbringer. I hope I got the measurements right, because I wanted this to be a surprise. And I hand you a bracer. It's got, the logo of the Dawnbringers on it.
You made this for Rollo?
Yes.
Rollo never got a gift like this.
Are you okay?
You care about Rollo.
All of us do.
Rollo will never abandon you. Any of you.
And she runs up and just grabs Thorgarn by the leg and just hugs him as tight as she can. And just holds on to him for a good, 5 minutes. Just doesn't move, just clinging to his leg.
I'll just sit there and let you do.
And she's kind of sniffling and crying slightly. And she's basically got one arm wrapped around his leg and the other is putting the bracer on. And she's just crying, little tears are running down her face, and she sniffles every once in a while, and kind of after she gets the bracers on, she kind of nuzzles up again and just clings to him.
Thorgarn, resist the urge to just pat you on the head.
Remind me, Ted, did we stat those out in D&D Beyond?
I don't think we.
I think it predates when we were using D&D Beyond. But they do have a mechanical advantage.
I was going to say, if you did, I never got one.
We'll have to remedy that. Because all of the Dawnbringers have one of these now. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that once per day, you can automatically succeed on a saving throw. I believe that's what we decided on those.
I think wisdom in particular.
Yes. Sorry, on a wisdom.
Yeah, I thought it was
I think that's
essentially.
right.
It's
I thought it was
wisdom.
essentially one use of legendary resistance for wisdom saves.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll fix that mechanically, so you can add that to your sheets. I will probably forget that because I can't find my post-its. But there we go. Bracer. Yes. We, I'm afraid, are going to have to leave tonight. And as this is the Feywild, and as he's talking about the Feywild, every time he mentions the Feywild, he kind of almost subconsciously glances at you, Cantriel. The Feywild is it's an unpredictable place. You are just as likely to enter the Feywild on this evening and return moments after you entered, as if no time has passed. Just as likely as you are to enter the Feywild and return to find that many years have passed. You need to be aware of this. More so for all of you, as he looks around at Yesha and Ravost and Nimsy and the others. Well, he takes a linen napkin off the table and so this is not one of yes, I will take this one then. Takes a biscuit and says, I will allow you to say your goodbyes, and I will be waiting for you outside. And Sabine kind of pushes back from the table, and you see as he steps down that he doesn't rise very high. You just sort of see the top of his head as he moves around the chairs and heads for the door. He pulls a pocket watch out of his vest. But we really must be going soon. Outside. And tucks it in, and he heads outside, leaving you all to say your goodbyes.
He is late.
Rollo lets go of Thorgarn's leg and kind of wipes her eyes, and she sort of waddles over to the table where all the kids are. And
Okay, so Rollo has to go, but we finish game of hide and seek when I get back, okay?
Well, when you get back, you have to find us.
Okay, deal. Rollo will be it. You have a little while to find really good hiding places. I mean really good, because Rollo is excellent at searching.
The children, a couple of them, Fiddle, Trout, and Scoop, they immediately take off, and you see one of them Scoop just climbs right underneath the kids' table and glances out from underneath every once in a while. But Poppy, the oldest of the four of them, she kind of looks at you, and you can see her eyes welling up and watering up, and she just throws her arms around you, Rollo.
Rollo snuggles into her.
You are in charge of the little ones while Rollo is gone, because you're the biggest and strongest and bravest.
And she says to you while you're hugging her, and you're in charge of watching after the Dawnbringers.
Okay.
Because you're the biggest and strongest and bravest.
We got this.
And then she just kind of turns and sits, kind of sad looking, just sits at one of the chairs.
And Rollo reaches into... She kind of moves away. How old is she?
I would say Poppy is probably 9.
It's kind of a hard world, so Rollo reaches into her pouch and pulls out a small knife that's about the size you would use for whittling something.
Okay.
And she hands it to Poppy.
Now, if there is trouble here, you take this and you throw it in the water, okay? It's magic.
Oh, okay.
And when you do that, it will give you power. Okay?
Okay.
It will give you power to tell people what to do. You just know.
Okay.
You throw that in the water, and people will listen to you when you talk with purpose.
Okay.
Okay. You keep everybody safe.
Now
And
she
she-
looks slightly less sad.
She goes over to Cantriel and just kind of stands next to her.
Yeah, Poppy,
Yes.
there are two things you need to do for me. You need to come here first, though.
She immediately comes walking over to you.
Cantriel gives her a great big hug, and then she'll whisper to her, "This is the one. Make sure you share it with the others. And also, find the others in the next hour or so, because otherwise you might be waiting for a while."
You kind of, as you're hugging her, you feel her kind of shaking with a little bit of quiet laughter.
Oh yeah, Rollo didn't need to hide right now. That's a
Maybe
good
2
point.
hours.
2 hours? Definitely. Give yourself some time. And then she'll let go of Poppy and turn to Nimsy and give her another hug. And she doesn't have to say anything, though.
I think as you hug Nimsy, Nimsy just looks at you and just says, "I know, dear. I know."
I know you do. I'll be back. Use the cottage if you need to get away for a little bit.
Oh, bless your soul.
And then she goes back to stand with Rollo.
So Thorgarn kind of, doesn't even head towards Nimsy, just kind of like looks in her direction, says, "Thanks for everything," turns to Ravost and says, keep up the good work. You've got some serious talent. Don't let it go to waste. And then as he, kind of heads towards the others, he whispers under his breath in Celestial to Morden, just keep an eye on that one.
Ravost just nods at you, and when you say that he has talent, he says, "Well, I've had the best teacher I could imagine, and I believe I've got Moradin watching over my shoulder." Thank you, Mr. Thorgarn.
No need for the mister.
Hey, yes, sir.
Like Talmud is helping to kind of bring the the empty dishes and things like that back from the table back into the kitchen and things. And every time he does so, another one of the tarts probably disappears into either a pouch or his mouth. And at some point he kind of makes the last trip, and he sets down a tray, and he said, "Well, I would stay to help with all of this, but it sounds like we might have to scoot early, Nimsy. But I just wanted to say that I appreciate everything that you've done for all of us, really. But for me, trying to take me in and teach me as best you can. I know that I can make for a difficult student at times. Believe it or not, I've been told before that I'm kind of stubborn. But it's been a joy to try to work with you, and I feel like I've learned a lot, really. I'm almost there."
Hey, well, you keep feeling that. You hold on to that feeling. And as I told you in the beginning, you don't have to steal the tarts, Talmud. You just have to ask. And she hands you 2 bundles. They're these like linen, like the linen napkins all unfolded, but they've been kind of tied up. She hands you one. She says, "This one, it's a dozen tarts." And then she hands you another one, and she says, "This one, keep it away from open flame. It's what's left of what I've taken to calling Talmud's bursting biscuits. And she hands you the biscuits that you made that had the abundance of black powder in them. And you will find added to your character sheet at some point in the next week a baker's dozen of Talmud's bursting biscuits.
Now Talmud has ranged weapons.
They only do 1d4 of damage, but
I would
That's
like
fine.
to respend my
That's
level
fine.
into Rogue so that I can steal from Talmud.
yeah, this ought to be interesting. You've got these things that nobody wants except for Rollo.
They're just gonna start disappearing one by one.
It's fine. Rollo can be my grenade. That's fine.
And Talmud, I think as Nimsy hands you these, if you get a chance, just keep practicing far away from everybody else. But you might get it one day. And
Really, all Rollo needs to do is go get the bottle of Kiergan, let him drink that, and then you don't need to make a check.
right. And
Genius.
as Nimsy hands you these and steps to the side, you see standing behind her is Yesha.
Yeah, he takes these bundles from Nimsy and just kind of nods again, a thank you, and then kind of like leans in and gives her like a little bit of like a peck on each cheek, and thanks again for everything. Make sure to just do what you do. Watch out for everyone. You're a good mom and a good leader. People respect you and they look up to you for good reason. Yesha. He kind of like turns towards the younger woman and walks forward, kind of sets the bundles down kind of on the table next to him, and kind of reaches out and grabs both of her hands and kind of just stands there for a second looking at like where he's holding her hands, uncertain exactly how to begin. It sounds like where we're going, we may not be back from there for some time. So you're human, and I know that if it turns into years that I don't make it back, just know that I want you to be happy, and well, I love you, and I want for you and Ravos to have a happy life here together.
She just kind of smiles as you're talking and holding her hands, and she kind of takes one of your hands. She moves and just kind of runs her hands along the calluses on your hands. I just wanted to remind myself of the strong dwarf that you are, because you were getting a little soft there. And then she sort of punches you on the arm. But she very quickly, as she punches you on the arm with her other arm, she kind of just pulls in and gives you a very big hug and whispers in your ear, "I love you too." And then she pauses, and then you hear, "Da." And then she pulls away.
He kind of still holding her hand, just kind of shakes it up and down a couple of times, kind of in an affirmation. I know from the outside that the relationship that you and I have is not exactly something that a lot of people would understand, but I'm very, very glad that we found you in that spire for more than the obvious reasons. Yesha, it's been good to get to know you.
You need to stop talking like I'm never going to see you again.
Well, no, of course. I mean, we'll be back. Who knows? It could be, just a couple of seconds, according to the wee man, and then this whole thing would be very awkward. But awkward is just part of the services I provide, apparently.
Well, I think Ravos and I will be all right, and we'll take care of the inn for you. We'll give it a better name than Ramshackle by the time you get back, whether it's in the morning or 100 years from now. In which case, it'll probably be my grandchildren or great-grandchildren that are running it. But you'll always have a seat at the bar. And we'll save at least one bottle of Kirkin for you.
There better be two. One we open whenever I get back. And he's going to turn to Ravos. And he's going to kind of, go up and clasp his forearm and give it a good shake. Lad, you've shown your worth. And I can see already that you're taken to some of the dwarven ways, which, I'm not going to lie, that endears you a little bit more to me. But as long as you have her best interests at heart, and you take good care of her, and you make sure that you're happy, then I'll be happy.
He shakes your hand back and he just says, I will always have her best interests at heart. And he kind of looks at her and then he looks at you. Thank you, dead one. Sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Just don't call me Thorgarn. I hate that.
I think that leaves Fig. Fig's already outside. I'm just kidding.
No, I do think that Fig is watching all of this happen, and it seems like everyone has someone who is here who they interact with, and that they're leaving, and that they're not going to be here for a very long time. And for Fig, that this is very, very strange. And I think Fig feels a strange sense in twofold. One, he feels very lucky that the people that he would miss are coming with him. So there will be no time. He's not going to be leaving anyone here that he misses. But there's this also sense of just more alienness to him, that he's just kind of standing there watching all of this unfold, all of these emotions unfold, that he hasn't gotten a chance to feel or to recognize yet. And so he takes out a little sketchbook that he brought from the library that he had been using, and he's kind of gotten more into drawing these figures, and he's gotten pretty good at it. And he draws everyone who's here, like in various poses and saying goodbye and all that. And then he draws himself, and he draws himself talking with someone to kind of mimic what everyone else is doing. But the person that he's talking to is blurred out. He doesn't know who this person is. So he draws this, and he's just going to look and observe and feel the emotions that the others are feeling.
All right. And I think while you're doing this, periodically the children come up to you and sort of try to hug your leg or kind of pat and people do make it a point to say goodbye to you, but given that you seem preoccupied with your drawings, they don't press too much into your personal space, but they do say goodbye, leaving Drown, because I misspoke. Drown is last.
Yeah, so as everybody heads out, Drown just sort of sits quietly, watches, listens like he always does. And then once everybody has headed out to meet the satyr, he stands up with just a horrible creaking groan of the bench he was sitting on, trying not to break. And he looks at Nimsy, and with those kind of blank eyes just kind of settled on her, he says, "I do not remember any place that I can call home until now." And he kind of nods once and then just heads out after everyone else.
Bleeding heart moment from Drown.
My heart after all of this.
You head out into the street outside of Nimsy's place. The children gather at the windows, and Nimsy and Yesha and Ravos are on the porch. At some point, Victor comes around the corner and just he's just floating in the air, and he just sort of leans, which is more like his body tilting a little bit towards Ravos, and he goes, "I'm not entirely sure what's happening. Are they leaving again?" Ravos just goes, "Shh, I'll tell you later." And out in the front of Nimsy's, in addition to Sabine standing there, is Fig, your simulacra, and here comes Hermes. Are you taking them with you?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Yes. Two. Did not count on those two, but that's fine. Slight change in the arcane calculations. As he's saying this, he's walking around to everybody, and he's got this scarf that he's got wrapped around his neck a couple times. He hands one end of the scarf to you, Rollo. And then as he's moving, he goes, "Ari," and then Talmud, and he hands part of the scarf, kind of just trailing it. And as he moves around to all of you, the scarf, even though it was only wrapped around him a couple times, it just keeps getting longer and longer. And he sort of passes it through Hermes' hands and the simulacra's hands until all of you are holding on to this scarf. All right, one last check. Everybody's here. Hold on. Do not let go. And you all feel the scarf kind of like your hands tighten on the scarf. You couldn't let go if you wanted to. As suddenly you feel like just behind your belly button, you feel this as if you suddenly lurched down a big drop. Like your stomach drops out. And then there's a flash of light, and you quickly, the light changes, and you're no longer standing in the middle of Lonelywood. You are standing. It takes you a moment to kind of figure out roughly where you are, but you can see from the glow in the distance all around. You teleported not very far at all. You only teleported a few miles to the west-southwest, to the sort of open area in the midst of the 10 towns of 10 towns. There's a little bit of a hill, which is why you can kind of see around and see the glow from some of the different larger towns. And you're all standing there, and do you feel that pull on the scarf release? And Sabine just sort of pulls it in, and it just seems to sort of reel in until it's a normal size scarf again. Yes, sorry. Now, they should be arriving any moment now. We are, of course, you're each going to need one of these. This should be good for you and your companions. And he starts handing these sort of shimmery, golden, they're thicker than parchment, but basically these tickets that actually say on them, WitchLight Carnival, admit one. And he hands one ticket to each one of you. And Cantriel, you notice as he's doing this, it's past sunset, and the first stars are starting to appear, and the sky has just got that sort of twilight sort of shifting into deeper purple, and you notice several of the points of light seem to they shine a little brighter, and you notice they seem to be shifting colors. You see them shifting through blues and reds and pinks and purples, green and yellow and orange, and back again as they grow closer and closer. And you begin to see that there are carriages flying through the air, being drawn by horses and foxes with butterfly wings. At first you see 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, until you see some 30, 40, 50 of these carriages of all different shapes and sizes begin swirling like some kind of bizarre flock of birds. They begin to swirl around in the air near you, and they start landing. And as they land, the carriages sort of just start to almost grow, and you see brilliantly colored pennants and poles and tents and flags as you watch before your eyes as the WitchLight Carnival is assembled in the midst of 10 towns. As everything sort of settles down, and the entire area that was just moments before bathed in this sort of twilight glow is now brilliantly colored, and you see butterflies emitting their own glow, flitting about all around you, butterflies of all different colors. And you notice that as they sort of flutter around this one area, they disperse, and a few of them linger as there is a ticket booth in front of you with a silver statue of dancing fairies mounted on the roof of the ticket booth, and these butterflies just fluttering around it. And you see that the booth itself, the decoration, appears to be an animated depiction of the night sky above you. You see, though, as if it's showing the rotation of the planet, and you see the stars moving, and occasionally a shooting star moving across this ticket booth. And then all of your eyes catch the elderly goblin that is sitting behind the ticket booth, who suddenly sits up and peers over a pair of goggles or glasses at all of you, taking you all in, and he says, "Ah, yes. Greetings, fairgoers. Tickets, please." And holds out his hand towards you. Do you all present your tickets? As you proceed forward, and you hand him your tickets, he in turn hands each one of you a pair of butterfly wings with little shoulder straps to strap onto your back. And he says, "Please do wear these at all times. This is proof of your admission by ticket into the WitchLight Carnival. I have a little bit larger pair for you. They are no bigger than any of the other ones, as you are handed a very tiny set of butterfly wings, Drown. And as each of you place your butterfly wings onto your backs, and you find, Rollo, that your butterfly wings seem to meld into your Erd wings and sort of almost become one with them. So you now have butterfly wings that are functioning. But something else happens. You all feel a magical force imbuing you. And there is a brilliant light that shimmers around all of you, and these butterflies begin coalescing on your position until there's more and more of them. And even the goblin behind the ticket booth is, oh dear, this is, oh, it's you. Okay, well, this makes a little more sense, I think. As the butterflies swirl and obscure each of you from each other, after a few moments, they start to flutter away. And you see that every one of you has become a child. And that is where we're going to end tonight's session.
So I'm like a foot tall now.
So,
At least you're not an egg.
This is true.
this is interesting. So here's what I will tell you, and we'll communicate more offline. Next week, you will all describe what your childlike version looks like. This is not, however, like if you were truly a child. This is magical. Think Muppet Babies, because Fig, you are also a child. You are child-sized, and you have two stuffed animals that look like, one that looks just like you and one that looks like Hermes.
Amazing.
And Rollo, you have a stuffed snowy owl bear.
Got a little Professor Cap on.
So I will get with you.
Here's a question to think about for description stuff. So are we just like poof childlike versions of ourselves now, or are we like ourselves as we were as a child?
It's more
even just physically.
It's physically, you are what you, because magic is involved, it's not necessarily what you looked like when you were a child.
We just got a filter put over us.
Yes, it's sort of a filter over you.
Because those are two very different images.
Yes,
got it.
They are. And there's mechanics that go along with this that I will tell you offline. So that is where we're going to end this session for tonight. Episode 1, tickets please, of Season 6 of the Dawnbringers, brought to us by Session Zero Clothing. It is so awesome to be back at the virtual table with all of my lovely friends here. I have missed you so much. And all of you in the audience, thank you all so much for hanging out with us tonight. We hope you'll come back every week to join us. Be sure to check out the !0, ZERO, for the affiliate code link and the discount code to Session Zero Clothing. And thank you to Session Zero. I know Ryan has been with us in and out of chat today. Ryan from Session Zero. Thank you everybody who contributed to the domain tomes. And I think this is just going to be a really fun and wild season that I'm very much looking forward to. We forgot to mention this at the top of the stream, so I'm going to mention it right now. Tomorrow night, you can tune in to Nerdarchy Live on YouTube to catch myself and V and Ted and our friends Frag and Asa and Robin on Untraditionally Arcane, DM'd by Ted, that I'll be producing over there on Nerdarchy Live. And you can also tune in on Monday nights to our other big D&D stream, which is Scribes and Scrolls, the Candlekeep Mysteries, a whole different crew of people over there on that. And I'll be over on Dice on Ice RPG on Twitch next Tuesday for the return of The Curse of Strahd. Stay tuned to Mini Terrain Domain because we've got lots of exciting new stuff happening over the course of this year and the next few months. We're very much looking forward to it. I'm just vamping as I'm trying to figure out who we're gonna raid. I think CB's streaming Dead by Daylight, so we'll go ahead and we're gonna throw all of our might of a raid to CB. So be sure to let Critical Bard know that Mini Terrain Domain sent you. And we hope to see you here next week. Thank you again, everybody in the audience. Special shout out if you are somebody who likes to lurk in the chat and just listen and not participate in the chat. Thank you. We appreciate you all the same too. And a huge thank you, as always, to my amazing players, V, Dan, M, Ted, Jeremy, and Katie, who we are so excited to have be a permanent member of the Dawnbringers. Without all of these lovely folks, it would just be me talking to myself for a couple of hours. With that, we're going to go ahead and end this stream the same way we end every stream. And you can say it with me if you want.
With
Dawnbringers.